Hi, I'm Tamsen Butler. I'm the author of the Complete Guide to Personal Finance for Teenagers and College Students, and I'm here to talk to you about your money and what you should be doing with your money now and what you should be doing with your money when you get into college and all that jazz. The first thing I want to tell you is to not panic. It's okay. If you haven't submitted a single financial aid request, if you still don't even know what college you're going to go to, if you don't think you have the money to attend college, it's okay, don't panic. Okay? You can get it figured out beforehand, and some people get it figured out while they're in college. The good thing is that you're wondering and you have questions, and so that's half the battle right there. Um, the single most important thing I want you to consider is figuring out how to deal with your money. If you were to ask me what is the most important thing about heading off to college as far as money goes, it's not to scramble to get all of your financial aid things first. It's not to get a bunch of student loans, nothing like that. It's not to save a bunch of money beforehand, although that's great. It's to understand how to manage your money, because there's people who head off to college with a nice big a bundle of money, but then once they get there, if they don't know how to deal with that money, the money's gone quickly. Whereas there's other people who head to college scraping by, but they understand how to manage their money, and they do just fine. So that's why I want you to understand the basics about personal finance. And if you do know the basics, that's fantastic. And if you don't, that's okay. There are plenty of very seasoned adults who still don't know how to write a budget, how to save money, how to prioritize their spending. So if you can learn that before you head off to college, then you have a leg up on even some adults who graduated college years and years and years ago. So I want you to try to make it a priority to understand how to maintain a bank account, a checking account. I want you to understand how to track your money so that when you use that debit card to make purchases, you understand that that money comes right out of your account. You understand that there's fees you'll have to pay to your account if you don't do what you're supposed to do, like if you overdraft your account or um, things like that. I want you to understand the basics of only buying really what you need and not making purchases that you don't need. And also only spending the least amount you can on things. College sometimes, for a lot of people, is a time when they don't have a lot of money at their disposal. And that's okay. Because I'll tell you that if you learn how to manage your money, despite maybe not having a ton of money to go through, then by the time you're out on your own, you're going to do great because you're going to get this job based on having gone through college. You're going to get a great job, and then you're going to know already how to deal with your money, and you will be one of the few people who doesn't go through financial turmoil as an adult. Okay? I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. I want you to not panic, but I also want you to learn the basics of managing your money. Okay, so even if you've never had a bank account, or if your parents have always just handed you money, lucky you, if that's what's been going on, you need to take the time to learn how to actually manage that money. Okay? So that's the main thing I want you to learn before you start thinking about heading off to college is sit down with your parents. Or if your parents aren't very good at managing money, because not all of them are, sit down with somebody else who can show you how do you manage a checking account. There's software that can help you, or you can just do it by hand. It's however you're most comfortable. But you should know these things when you get off on your own because it's going to help you a lot. Um, I also want to tell you that the second most important thing I want you to know is that student loans are not just a fact of life for all college students. Sorry, I'm going to drink some coffee. You don't have to get student loans. You might hear people talking about, well, I headed off to college and then I took in a bunch of student loans and I'm still paying those off 12 years later. It doesn't have to be that way, okay? Not everybody needs to get student loans. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some people who do. If you come from meager means and you're going off to medical school, oh yeah, you're probably going to need some student loans. And that's fine. They're there for a reason, but they have to be used responsibly. And they shouldn't be something that you automatically say, well, it's time to go get my student loans now. Instead, you should be thinking about ways that you can make it through college without taking out any student loans. I know plenty of people who did it. I did it myself. But I also know a bunch of people who took out quite a few student loans. There's people in their 40s who are still paying off student loans. I mean, do you really want to be one of those people? So before you take out a student loan, I want you to think about, is there a way that I can do this without taking out a loan? Maybe that means taking on a part-time job or a full-time job. Maybe it means, staying with your parents while you go to college or having a couple roommates. There's ways that you can save money so that you don't have to get a student loan. Again, I want to stress that student loans are appropriate in some instances, but I want to make sure that you understand that just because you hear that when everybody goes off to college they start getting their student loans, that doesn't mean you have to. If you can manage without a student loan in some way, then do it. And let me tell you why. There's a couple of reasons. I want you to imagine when you graduate, you have two different people. One person didn't take out any student loans, worked their way through college, scrimped and saved and maybe didn't go out as much as everybody else, but they made it through college, they've just graduated, no student loan debt. And then there's this other person who didn't quite feel like they could work through college, and they went ahead and got a bunch of student loans, and it was great. It paid for their tuition, paid for their living expenses, and then they graduate. These two people are in two very different positions at this point. One person, the one who has no student loans, might be able to be a little more picky about what job they take. They can wait a little longer to find that perfect job that pays well, is in the field that they want to work in, and that's going to fulfill them. The other person, on the other hand, has graduated with this mound of student debt on their shoulders. They have to find a job immediately to start paying all these debt off. And so that means maybe they have to take a much quicker job that maybe isn't even in a field they want to work. And then their career might get stifled because this guy had to take this job over here that has nothing to do with his degree. Now his resume has this job on it that pays a little lower and isn't even in his field of study. That's why I want you to try the best you can as far as not getting student loans if you can help it. I'm not bashing anybody who gets student loans. I'm just saying if you want the very best bang for your buck in college, you should avoid taking on new debt when possible. And that includes credit card debt, car loan debt. I mean, hold on to an old car for a while if you have an old car, or buy an older car. I don't know your specific situation, but there's always ways to try to save some money while you're in college. And I also understand that you have to spend to go to school. There's lab fees and textbooks and, nights out with friends and things. I understand that. But if you budget for that, then you can do those things without feeling bad about it. Okay, that's the things that I wanted to make sure I got out of the way, just in case no questions came out about those things. But I can answer any questions you have. I believe you have the capability of typing in the questions, and I see a few have come in already. So why don't we have a look at the questions that have come in, and I will answer them the best I can. Okay, let me read this one. What if I can't stay with my parents because the college is too far? Do most colleges offer jobs, and how hard are they to get? That's a great question. There we go. It's understandable. If you can't stay with your parents, then you don't have that option. Then you have to look at prioritizing your spending. Are you staying on campus, or are you going to stay off campus? Are you going to have a roommate? Are you not going to have a roommate? What is the most cost-effective option for you at that point, not being able to stay with your parents? So that just really depends on where you're located, what the housing is like there. In some places, you can find some very reasonable housing, especially if you're willing to have a roommate or two or three or however many. The second part of the question about if colleges offer jobs and how hard they are to get. Most colleges do have work-study programs, and those are actually quite good because some of those offer really great benefits. Now, this varies from college to college, so I don't know about the particular college that you're going to, but some colleges will give you a break on tuition, or you can get a job working in the food services area and you get free food. I mean, it depends. My suggestion, if you do find a job at your college, is that you try to find it somewhat within your course of study. And so that means if you're going to school to be a, let's say, sculptor, it would be better to try to get a work study program in the art department, doing something related to art and sculpting, than it would to work in the admissions office. But having said that, any work study program is going to be good for you because it's going to help you start up your resume. It's going to show that you were willing to work through college. And in a lot of instances, that job is going to give you some sort of break on tuition or free parking, or there's usually some benefit to working um, on campus. And plus, you're already there too. So then you don't have to worry so much about transportation unless you are at a very huge college where you have to drive from campus to campus to campus. I hope that clarified your question. If it didn't, just send me another one and I'll see what I can do. Okay, we have more questions coming in. Let's have a look. Okay. Hang on just a second. I'm just reading them all. Okay. This question is, how much should I expect my parents to pay me while I'm going to college? Okay, well, that's a fair question. That's a conversation that you need to have with your parents. You need to talk to your parents and have a frank conversation about, are you able to help me pay for my tuition, help me pay for my books, give me some sort of allowance, for lack of a better word, for my living expenses? Too often, people graduate high school and they just have the idea in their head that, okay, I've graduated, my parents are going to now pay for me to go to college. But then, unfortunately, what they don't know is that the parents really don't have the means to do that, or they don't have the intention to do that, but they've never sat down and had that conversation. So that's why you need to sit down with your parents, say, look, mom, dad, uh, I need to know how much money you're going to be able to help me with when I head off to college. And that doesn't sound snotty or anything. It's just it's a good question. Some parents may say, "Hey, we've been saving for your college since the day you were born. So you don't have to worry about tuition. You don't have to worry about this, and we're going to send you X amount of dollars a month. And here's a credit card, off you go." Okay? Whereas some other parents may say, I'm a little embarrassed to tell you this, but I never saved for your college. I just expect you to take care of it yourself. And there you go. So, it's a conversation you need to have with your parents. Um, and they should help you when you're sitting down to try to figure out a budget so that you can handle your money while you're in college. So as far as if there's a hard fast number of how much money your parents should be giving you if they're able to, there really isn't one. If your parents can help you with your tuition, fantastic. If they can help you with, a monthly or weekly allowance, that's cool too. Just make sure that you remember that this is your time to start going out on your own. So, um, if your parents are willing to pay for every single little thing, at least get involved in the process of seeing the money going in and the money coming in and the money going out, understand what that looks like and everything so that when you are truly on your own and there's no more money from the parents, that you understand what your living expenses are, you have a realistic idea of how much things cost, because it'd be a shame to go to college and have everything paid for and just, swipe mom or dad's credit card every time you go through the register and have no idea how much things actually cost. Because then when you're on your own, and all of a sudden you're paying rent, you're paying electricity, you're paying for your car and your insurance and everything else. That could be quite a rude awakening if you're not expecting it. Let me have a look at some more questions here. I hope that answered your question. Okay. Oh, this is from the one that asked the question about getting the job at college. Um, it says, how would I go about getting a job at college? Say I'm in the science department. Do I talk to an admission counselor or with a teacher to see if there are jobs available? Good question. That depends basically on the college and their procedure. What I would do is when you go in and you talk to the admissions counselor, they should at least be able to steer you in the right direction. Now, my guess, but again, this varies from college to college, my guess is that the financial aid department helps with any sort of work study programs. However, you can also talk to the instructors, the professors, because some of them might have the ability to hire who they want, but again, that varies from college to college. Start at the admissions office, ask them, but do also ask your instructors and professors, especially if you're in a specific field like science. And if you're particularly good at what you do, you might be able to get hired on by a teacher as a teaching assistant or a lab assistant or something like that. And then that helps you in a number of ways. You have a job, you might get some sort of break from the college on tuition fees or something like that. You're putting something on your resume that is specific to your field of study, and you're in the science department now. You're part of the science department in a small way, and that can only help you when it comes time to maybe apply for graduate school or your doctorate degree or whatever it is you're going to do with that science degree. Okay? I hope that helped. Okay, lots of more questions. Let's see. Okay, here's another one. How much more is it going to cost me? How much more is it going to cost me to move away from home? Okay. I'm not entirely sure the specifics of that question, but I'll give it a try. Um, Living at home with your parents, even if you pay them rent or whatever sort of situation you have set up with them, typically costs less than when you're out on your own. Um, this is one instance where your parents can help you quite a bit to give you a realistic idea of how much it's going to cost you to live on your own. And that could be in a dorm, it could be, in a house with a bunch of people, or even on your own. It depends on your situation and the college you're attending. My suggestion is that you sit down and ask your parents how much it is they're spending every month on groceries. How much are they spending every month on electricity? Now, it'll probably be different where you are because likely you live in a place now with an entire family, and entire families are much more expensive than one person living on their own. But it gives you an idea of what things cost. Now, there are lots of websites online that will help you with cost of living calculations based on the zip code. So if you're moving away somewhere else, you can have a look at one of those and it'll tell you what the average cost of rent, gas for your car, car insurance, things like that. I think I think MSN has a really good calculator, but I'm not sure, and I'm sorry I don't have that actual website. But just put cost of living calculator by zip code into Google or another search engine, and that should give you a good idea of what you're going to be spending. Now remember, those are all averages. You may be more or less, hopefully less, if you're handling your money correctly. Okay, let's have a look at another question. I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, just send me another one and I'll clarify what I can. Okay, should I keep my money in my name in my account for FAFSA, or should I transfer it to my parents? Okay, um, what I think you're asking is as far as, let me try to see here. If you're asking if your money, as far as like your bank account, if you should keep that in your name or if you should transfer it into your parents' name when you're applying for financial aid, Um, I mean, if it's your money, it should be in your name. Um, and if you're asking if you should apply for FAFSA on your own or with your parents, you'll have to ask the financial aid people. There's different regulations and rules regarding if you get to apply by yourself or if you apply with your parents. So I don't know that you have the choice on that, but again, you'll want to talk to your financial aid office, um, because I don't want to say anything that might not be correct with that. I'm not quite an expert in the regulations of federal student aid. I'm more of a personal finance gal, but I hope that's a very vague answer. I hope it was some sort of question or some sort of answer to your question. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see if there's any. Oh, there are a few more questions. Just a second. Let me read. Okay. Hmm. Okay, this one's also related to scholarships as well. It says, where do I get financial aid? Okay, there's a few different options. Start Always start with going to the financial aid office. If you already know what college you're going to, talk to them. They will figure out exactly what you're eligible for and give you options for other things as well. If you haven't decided on your college yet, you could still fill out the financial aid information to get a preliminary idea of what you're eligible for. And that's based on a few things, any income you have, but also in many instances, it also has to do with not only your parents' income, but their assets, so their net worth. Um, and I know that doesn't seem fair because if you have parents who say, buckle down and pay for college yourself, yet they have quite a bit of money, that's going to harm your chances of financial aid, unfortunately. But that's just how the system works. Now, there are several, well, hundreds, thousands of scholarships. And I don't want you to be dissuaded from applying for scholarships. I know they're very competitive, but a lot of them are not needs based. They have to do with um, all sorts of things. What you're studying, your nationality, uh, if your parents served in the military. I mean, just if you can think of a subculture, there's probably a scholarship for it. And that's good news. So I want you to look not only to the federal student aid and programs that the school is offering, but also other scholarship programs. Now the internet is just full of resources for scholarships. There are some companies that will charge you a fee and they'll look and see what scholarships you're eligible for. And I mean, it's an option. It's not a bad idea. I wouldn't say it's the only way to go. I mean, if you can figure it out on your own, then that's certainly preferable to paying someone else to do it for you. Um, but don't stop looking. Keep looking. Find ways to pay for college, and including getting a job, getting financial aid, getting scholarships, grants if possible. Um, why pay for it if you can find a way to have somebody else pay for it, basically. Okay. Oops. I'm gonna knock over my computer while I'm talking to you guys. All right, we have some more questions. Let's see. Okay, should I get a credit card? Excellent question. Okay, now there's all sorts of um, regulations and laws that are in effect about getting credit cards now that were not in effect when your parents went to college. So your parents are probably warning you, oh, when you get to college, there's going to be tables from Visa and MasterCard, and they're going to want to give you a free T-shirt to get a credit card and apply. You may not run into that as much nowadays, but there's still ways for you to get a credit card. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to getting a credit card. The obvious advantage is it can um, help you if you're in a tight spot or you have an emergency, like you need to fly home because there's a family problem or something, or if there's unexpected lab fees that you didn't know you were going to have to pay, and you have to pay them, otherwise you can't take the class, or whatever. A credit card I don't think should be used for, oh, I'd really like some pizza instead of this peanut butter and jelly I have sitting here. Or, oh, I really want to go to that concert, but I can't afford it, so I'll just put it on my credit card. That's not what a credit card should be used for. That's going to get you in trouble. Um, Now, as far as obtaining a credit card, though, depending on your age and depending on um, any income you have, you may not even be eligible to get a credit card yet. However, there are a few things you can do. Your parents can co-sign with you to get you a credit card. This also depends on your age, though. You may not be eligible yet. Excuse me. If they co-sign for you, it's important for you to realize that that means that the account is also in their name. And it's important for them to realize that too. Because that means if you get a credit card and then you charge it up and then you don't pay the bill, your parents are going to get a notice in the mail or by phone or maybe by email saying, hey, your son or daughter has not paid their credit card, and so you have to pay it now. And if they don't pay it, then it hurts their credit report. So the whole co-signing thing um, it's a dangerous proposition because it can cause a lot more harm, and it's not as if you're managing your money on your own at that point, because this is still your parents' account. It's your account and their account. A much better option, if you would like some of the perks of having a credit card and you're not eligible to get a credit card on your own, is to get what's called a secured card. And many financial institutions offer secured cards, and these are different from prepaid cards. I'll tell you the distinction here in a moment, but the secured card, what you do is you deposit an amount into, some of them it's a savings account, some of them it's a certificate of deposit. It just depends on the financial institution you go through. You deposit an amount, and that acts as collateral for your balance, your available balance for the secured card. Now, a secured card looks just like any other credit card. It has your name and the account number and the Visa or MasterCard logo or whatever it is. And you use it just like any other credit card. You use it, then you get a statement, then you pay a monthly minimum at least, or you pay off the balance. But that money has to sit there in collateral. So say, for example, you apply for a secured card and they say you're approved, but you need to put $500 into a savings account. You put that $500 into the savings account, it stays in there, it sits in there, nothing happens to it, it probably earns some interest. But if for some reason you don't pay your bill, they then take the money from that $500 that's sitting there, plus whatever many fees are associated with not paying your bill on time. So the secured card, it acts just like a regular credit card. And here's some of the instances when it's good to have a secured card. For example, if you don't want to carry cash because you are afraid that you're going to lose it or something. Also, many credit cards offer protection from purchases. For example, if you use your secured card to buy something online and it never comes and the merchant won't even talk to you, then you file a complaint with the credit card company, and they'll usually just credit you back the amount. Same thing if you get something and it's broken. There's all sorts of little perks to using a credit card, but the secured card, you're not necessarily building up debt because you can't go over that collateral amount in a lot of instances. Now, some of those companies, they'll let you deposit $500 and then they'll give you a $1,000 available balance, and it's a different situation, but it's similar because it's a secured card. Long story short, if you want to get a credit card, my suggestion is to start with a secured card. You'll have to put that collateral down, but it's okay. It's just like putting it into a savings account. It's fine. You'll get that money back. And then a lot of times what will happen is you use that secured card and you're learning how to maintain a credit card. So you understand, oh, the statement is ready. I need to pay this within, so many days. Otherwise, I'm going to have interest and I'm going to have fees and et cetera, et cetera. And if you responsibly use that secured card, oftentimes when you graduate from college or when you get a good job, the credit card company is going to say, hey, good job with that secured card. Here's a regular old credit card. And your credit score will increase and you will have built up some credit, which will be helpful to you when you graduate from college if you want to get a car loan or if you're ready for a mortgage or anything like that. Having positive things on your credit report, like a secured credit card, is going to help you, but you have to use it responsibly. That brings me to prepaid cards real quick. Let me talk about that. Do I have time to talk about this? I think I do. I don't even know. Oh, I do. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, as a college student or as a pre-college student, you are probably the target market for many of the prepaid card companies that are out there. Now, I'm not saying that prepaid cards are bad, but I'm saying that prepaid cards usually come with a lot of fees and a lot of restrictions. So if it's a choice between do I get a secured card or do I get a prepaid card, go with the secured card. Prepaid cards are good for, your parents want to send you a surprise $50 and they don't want to send cash or a check in the mail. They can send you a prepaid card. But if you're trying to get a feel for using credit cards and your only two options are a secured card or a prepaid card, go with a secured card for sure. Okay, and I have more questions I should get to, so let me check these out. Well, the question is, you think a debit card would be better? If you mean as opposed to a secured card or a prepaid card or anything like that, debit cards are great. I think that debit cards are brilliant and they should be used responsibly, but they're really great because, I don't know about you, but I don't care for carrying cash around too much. And debit cards are so easy to use. You just swipe them and put in your PIN or sign as a credit, and off you go. Um, what I was talking about with the secured card and the prepaid cards was if you're attempting to start building up credit and you had an option between secured cards and prepaid cards, then the secured card's the way to go. That was in response to another question. Now, debit cards are much different from credit cards and from secured cards. Your debit card is tied to your checking account when you use it. Unless there's something else going on with your account, when you use it, the money immediately comes out of your checking account and you go on with your life. There's no bill to pay, there's no interest accrued, nothing like that. Debit cards are fantastic and they make purchasing easy, and a lot of them have um, liability protection to where if somebody actually, steals your debit card or gets a hold of your debit card number or something, you typically won't be liable for that. You may be liable for up to $50 depending on the financial institution. But if the question is, um, should you get a debit card or a credit card? I would always use debit card over credit in most instances, um, but they're two separate things. They're two different entities. If that didn't answer your question, then just send me another one and clarify, and I'll try to help you out with that. Okay, here's another one. Okay. Do you have any resources for tracking budget expenses? Do you recommend a percentage for saving, percentage living expenses, etc.? That's a really good question. The budget will vary depending on so many things. Where you're going, um, how much money you have, what your expenses are. Some people, if they live on campus, they don't need a car. It depends. There are so many resources online for tracking budget expenses. You can create your own budget, paper and a pencil, or you can use something like QuickBooks or some other program that you can tie to your checking account, so when you make purchases, it automatically goes into your tracking. You can use Excel to create your own. Look online Look at some examples and see which one works best for you, because there's so many different options that I don't have one in particular that I like over any others, but it is such a good idea to track expenses. So good for you for thinking of that. And I'm sorry, I'm shaking my computer. I don't mean to. The other question about percentage of savings and percentage of living expenses. The typical savings is 10% for savings if you can. As far as percentage for living expenses and stuff, that's just going to vary depending on where you're living and what your other expenses are. Now, while you're in college, you do want to try to save 10%. Put it in a savings account that's earning interest on the money. However, if it's between saving 10% or putting that money toward some debt that you may have brought up, then put it toward the debt. Okay. The savings, while you're in college, and some people will not agree with what I'm about to say. While you're in college, it's fantastic if you can save some money. However, I would much rather that you paid down any debt you have before you save. Now, yes, save some money, put it away. I think Dave Ramsey says get $1,000 in an emergency account. And that could take some time when you're in college. Do have some emergency money sitting around in an interest-bearing account. That is a really good idea. But don't get so stuck on a certain percentage of savings while you're in college and you have so many expenses to where you're still socking away 10% every time you get money. However, you have these credit card bills or this car loan bill or whatever it is that has this interest building up on it, because it doesn't make sense. Yes, you want to save 10% or more if you can, but don't save to the detriment of allowing other bills to just pile up, pile up, pile up. So when you're sitting down and writing a budget, if you can write a budget and you can put in that 10% for savings and still have enough money to make sure that you don't have any credit card debt, you're paying it off every month if you have a credit card, um, then that's wonderful. Do that 10% savings. Think of how great that would be if you could save 10% of your income all throughout college and not get student loans and don't build up any more debt. Then you're graduating from college with money in the bank and no debt. I mean, that'd be brilliant. So if you can do that, that's what you should do. If I'm not making sense, just send me another question to ask for clarification. But yeah, have a look. Just do a search online for online expense trackers, because some people like to carry those, in in like pen and paper form. Some people like to use an app like I think Mint is a really good one because it tracks all of your expenses and it tells you what you're spending your money on. Um, so the point is to understand where your money's going and to do it in a way to where you're actually going to track it and you're going to understand it and you're going to learn from it. Okay, there's some more questions. Let's have a look. Okay, the question is, when filling out the FAFSA, that's the federal application, for this federal aid student application, why do they assume the step parent will be contributing to college? My daughter does not have any contact with her father, so why doesn't the FAFSA just consider the mother's income? Again, I'm not an expert on the federal student aid, but I will say that I hear the frustrations from a lot of people. The problem is that they have to be a bit generic in their assumptions. Um, and all I can say is talk to the financial aid office, explain the situation. Um, I know it's really rough because there's so many families who truly need this student aid, but then how it's all filled out, it looks like they have so much more money than they actually do. I know that's frustrating, and I know it seems unfair, but I suppose they can't look at everybody individually all the time. I mean, I don't want to make assumptions on things that I don't know 100% about. So speak to the financial aid office and just make it clear what's going on and um, see what they can do for you, basically. And I'm sorry that I don't have more of a expert feel on that sort of stuff. Okay, I think we have time for this question here. Let me have a look. Okay. Can scholarships be used to pay for other items non-related to college? Well, it depends on the stipulations of the scholarships, but basically, most scholarships, um, they just give you the money. I mean, it depends. There may be scholarships where they say, this is only to be used to purchase textbooks, or this is only to be used to pay tuition. And some scholarships are sent directly to the college. You never even actually touch the money. Um, and the college distributes whatever they need to distribute based on the scholarship. However, there are some where if you get that scholarship, they're just going to send you a check in the mail or deposit it directly into your account or however they do it. It depends on the scholarship itself. But the ones where they just send you the money, I mean, those are fantastic. When you apply for the scholarship, it should say on there what they expect you to use the money for. And there may be some scholarships where they require you to submit receipts to show what you did spend it on. But more often than not, you're going to get a scholarship, especially from small organizations, like little scholarships. Like if you get, say, $1,000 scholarship in the mail or something, they're just going to send you a check for $1,000. It just depends. So when you apply for the scholarship, have a look and see what it says in the actual terms of agreement of it. But if you can get a scholarship, more often than not, they may vaguely say this is for living expenses or just expenses related to college. But if you're off living on your own, expenses related to college are also considered room and board and, paying for transportation, things like that. Okay? All right. Let me see what other questions we have. Oh, there's a lot of questions. I'm trying to get to all of them. I apologize if I don't. Just a second. Let's see. Oh, this is a long question. Okay, what is FAFSA and how does that work? If you don't know, it's fine. Thank you, Jared. Also, where do you find scholarships and how do you apply? I know from Millerville University when I applied, they had a scholarship app that I just filled out online. I never saw one for Grove City College, but I just assumed they would evaluate my app for a scholarship themselves. Okay, you have to be aggressive with scholarships. There may be some where when you apply for your federal student aid, that they then send it in through different scholarships. But there's not one financial aid representative that knows every single scholarship available. So scholarships, you should seek those out on your own too. And like I said earlier, I want you to go online, have a look, see what scholarships are available. If you come from like a special, like if you're a military family or you are of Native American descent or something along those lines, or if you study something very particular, you should be able to go on and just do a search engine of that. Of say, I would go on there and say, um, military family, um, major in finance scholarship. And then the scholarships that are out there might pop up for me. That's the sort of thing you want to do. I also mentioned that there's some companies that will do it for you if you pay them. That's up to you if you want to do that, but don't limit it just to what they find either. Do some searching on your own. Ask the financial aid person, are they also looking for scholarships? It's likely that they have some scholarships that are related to that particular um, educational institution that they maybe see if you're eligible for, but there's so many more out there. Oh my gosh, there's so many scholarships. So make sure that you're doing the search on your own. And as far as what FAFSA is, that's the application for student aid that you fill out. A lot of times, even if you know you're not eligible necessarily for federal student aid, they'll still have you fill that out because then that gives them all the information they need to then see if you're eligible for other scholarships or grants or things like that. Um, you can find, I think it's FAFSA.gov, maybe FAFSA.org. I'm sorry, I can't remember. So look it up online. I think you can fill it out online. You could do it in your financial aid office. And I like the idea that you said where there was an app where you could apply for scholarships using that. That's a great resource. So use that if it's available to you. Okay? All right, let me see if there's any more questions. I'm running out of time. Just a second. Oh, good. Okay. Uh, this is what it says. It says, these might be helpful. Another College Week Live presentation gave these links. Here's some websites for, I'm assuming these are for scholarships and opportunities like that. It says collegegreenlight.com, fastweb.com, scholarships.com, and scholarshipexperts.com. Now, I'm not endorsing those. I don't know what they are. This is just a suggestion from somebody else. Have a look at those. I do want to caution you on one thing, however. And like I said, I don't personally know these websites. I'm not endorsing them. And I don't know if this pertains to them, but I will say be careful what websites you go to and what websites you give your personal information to. Don't go to a website that promises to find you a bunch of scholarships, but they want to know your social security number first, or they want a credit card number first, or if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. I'm not saying that that's these websites. This was suggested by somebody else, but just be careful because there's some people who are unscrupulous and they know that you're trying to find some scholarships and that you get really excited when you find a website that maybe looks like they can help you. And I just don't want you to wind up with somebody stealing your identity because you put some information into a website. Again, those particular websites, I'm not saying that's what they're like. I'm just saying in general, please be careful. Okay? All right. I think I have run out of time. I sure hope I answered some questions for you. If you have any further questions or anything, I think my website is listed there, tamsenbutler.com. My email, tamsen@tamsenbutler.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions for you. And I wish you luck. And please just make sure that you figure out your money so that you don't turn into one of those people who graduates from college, you know, neck high in debt and not knowing what in the world to do with your money. Okay? You'll have much more fun, I promise, when you graduate if you're not worried about a bunch of student loans and a bunch of credit card debt and a car loan and all these sorts of things. So, good luck to you. It's exciting, so have fun with it.